I jolted awake to the shrill ring of my landline phone, the red digits of my alarm clock piercing through the darkness, 2:37 a.m. The rain outside my window created shifting shadows on my bedroom wall as I reached for the receiver, my mind still clouded with sleep. I should have let it ring. Working as a crime reporter for 15 years had made me somewhat immune to late-night calls. They were usually tips about ongoing investigations or desperate people wanting their stories heard. But something felt different about this one. Maybe it was the steady sound of breathing on the other end, or perhaps it was the complete absence of background noise. "Hello?" I repeated, sitting up straighter in bed. The police scanner on my desk crackled with routine chatter about a domestic disturbance downtown. I had been following a string of disappearances in our small town, 3 women in the past 2 months. The police insisted the cases were unrelated, but my gut told me otherwise. I know what happened to them. The voice was barely above a whisper, masculine but with an unsettling softness. A chill ran down my spine as I grabbed my notepad. Through my window, I could see the empty street below, illuminated by the sickly orange glow of streetlights. My wall was covered with details about the missing women. Sarah Chen, 34, disappeared walking home from her night shift. Emily Roberts, 29, vanished after a morning jog. Maria Santos, 31, never made it to her sister's house for dinner. Different backgrounds, different routines, but they all disappeared within 5 miles of each other. "The old Wilson Steel Factory," the voice continued. "You've been close, so very close, but you were looking in the wrong buildings." My hand trembled as I wrote. I had indeed visited the abandoned industrial district multiple times, drawn by its proximity to all 3 disappearances. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The caller's breathing became more pronounced, almost excited. "Because you're different from the others. You understand the beauty of it. I've read every one of your articles. The way you describe the details, you see things like I do. There's a door in the back of Building C. It leads to the old maintenance tunnels. That's where you'll find them. What's left of them." My stomach lurched. I had interviewed their families, seen their photos, watched their loved ones break down in tears. Are they still alive? The laugh that followed was soft, almost gentle. "October 15th. That's when I took the first one. She fought the hardest. October 28th, the jogger. She was the fastest, but they all slow down eventually. November 8th. Well, you know the dates, don't you? You've written about them." My fingers had twisted the phone cord so tightly they were starting to tingle. I should hang up, call the police, but I knew this might be my only chance. "Why now? Why tell me this now?" "Because I saw you today, sitting in your car outside the factory. You're getting closer, and I want you to find them. But more importantly," he paused, and I could hear him licking his lips, "I want to know if you're as special as I think you are." I was already writing down everything, my hand shaking so badly the words were barely legible. The caller ID showed unknown, but I wrote down the time and duration of the call. Years of reporting had taught me to document everything. "Are you recording this?" he asked suddenly, his voice sharper. Before I could respond, he continued, "No, you wouldn't. You understand the intimacy of a conversation like this. That's why I chose you. You respect the story." My articles about the disappearances had been detailed, perhaps too detailed. I had always believed that the truth, no matter how dark, deserved to be told. But now those same articles had attracted the attention of their killer. I felt sick. "The police will find them eventually," he said, as if reading my thoughts. "But they'll be too late for the next one, unless—" He let the word hang in the air. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. "Unless what?" I asked, although I already knew. I moved to my window, scanning the street below. There was a van I didn't recognize parked 2 houses down. Had it been there earlier? "Unless you come alone. Tonight. No police. Just you and your notepad like a good reporter." My eyes fell on my sister's police badge on the bedside table. She had insisted I keep it after she transferred to another city, along with the pepper spray. "You never know," she had said. She was right. "Building C, 1 hour," he said. "Come alone and I'll tell you everything. Their families deserve to know the truth, don't they? And you deserve the story of a lifetime." The line went dead. I sat in the darkness for exactly 1 minute, letting my racing thoughts settle. Then I picked up the phone again and dialed 911. I had been a crime reporter long enough to know that some stories weren't worth dying for. As I waited for the operator to answer, I could hear police sirens in the distance, growing closer. The graveyard shift at the 911 dispatch center was usually quiet, just the occasional drunk driver or domestic dispute. Tonight was my first shift alone after 6 months of training. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I settled into my chair, not knowing this would be my last night on the job. The first call came at 11:42 p.m. Nothing but static at first, then heavy breathing. Standard protocol was to ask for the nature of the emergency, but before I could speak, a child's voice broke through. "Someone's trying to get into my house." My screen showed the call originating from 4891 Pine Creek Road, the middle of nowhere, 20 miles outside city limits. The signal was weak, breaking up every few seconds. "I'm hiding in my parents' closet," the girl whispered. "They're not moving anymore." I dispatched 2 patrol units while keeping her on the line. My training manual lay open beside me, but nothing had prepared me for this. The girl couldn't have been more than 12. "Can you tell me your name?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Amy," she whispered. "Please hurry. I can hear him walking around downstairs." The call timer showed 3:42. Units were still at least 15 minutes out. Rural response times were always longer, and tonight's storm wasn't helping. That's when I noticed something odd about the background noise. Between the static bursts, there was a faint echo, like the call was being played through speakers. I checked the signal strength again. It was fluctuating wildly. "He's coming upstairs," Amy whimpered. But the footsteps I heard through my headset didn't match her words. They were too clear, too close to her microphone. Something wasn't right. I ran a reverse lookup on the address while keeping her talking. 4891 Pine Creek Road didn't exist. My heart started racing as I remembered the Baker case from last year, a serial killer who had used a child's recorded voice to lure police officers to remote locations. 3 officers had died before they caught him. "Amy, I need you to tell me something," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "What color is your house?" The breathing on the other end stopped. For 10 long seconds, there was nothing but static. Then a man's voice responded, deep and amused. "Clever girl." I immediately radioed the patrol units to stand down, but they'd already lost radio contact due to the storm. The man chuckled. "Your officers are going to be very disappointed when they arrive, but don't worry, I've left them a little surprise." My fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to get through to anyone on backup channels. Every frequency was jammed with static. The dispatch center's security system was flashing warnings. All external communications were being disrupted. "You should have asked more questions," he said. "About Amy, about her house, about the strange echo on the line. But you dispatched help anyway. That's what makes you perfect." The security panel by the door started blinking red. Someone had triggered the external sensors. "Who are you?" I demanded, pulling up the security camera feeds. The loading dock emergency exit was open, swaying in the wind, but I hadn't heard any alarms. The system showed all alarms had been disabled at 11:39 p.m., 3 minutes before Amy's call. "Check your email," he said. "I sent you something 10 minutes ago." My personal email account showed one new message. The subject line, "The Others." Inside were newspaper articles about 3 dispatchers who had disappeared from centers across the state. I had never heard about these cases. "They were just like you," he continued. "Smart, dedicated. They noticed the inconsistencies, asked the right questions, but in the end, they couldn't resist trying to help poor little Amy." The security camera feeds went dark one by one. My hand moved to the drawer where I kept my pepper spray and car keys. "Don't bother," he said. "I've been in the building for hours. Check the bottom drawer of your desk." With trembling fingers, I pulled it open. Inside was my pepper spray canister, empty. The floor plan on my screen showed 12 possible exits, but without security cameras or alarms, I had no way of knowing which ones were still accessible. The storm had knocked out cellular service. I was completely isolated. "Look up," he whispered. The ventilation grate above my desk was hanging loose. Fresh scratch marks surrounded the screws. "I had to make sure you were the right one. I've been watching you all week, learning your routine. You work so hard to save everyone else. But who's going to save you?" The lines lit up all at once, every emergency number in the system. But when I tried to answer, there was only static, punctuated by a child's laughter. Amy's voice, playing on a loop. "Please hurry. Please hurry. Please hurry." Metal scraped against metal overhead. A fine dust began falling from the vent. "They never think to check the ventilation system during security sweeps," he said. "Too many old buildings connected underground, too many access points. But you understand now, don't you? Why it had to be you?" I watched helplessly as the main door handle began to turn. The backup generator hummed to life as the regular lights went out, bathing everything in pulsing red emergency lighting. "Time to meet Amy," he whispered. "She's been waiting for someone new to play with." The request line rarely rang during my midnight radio show. Most of our listeners were long-haul truckers or insomniacs, content to let the classic rock playlist run without interruption. That's why the flashing call light at 3 a.m. caught my attention, breaking the hypnotic spin of the vinyl record on my turntable. "WKRX Classic Rock, you're on with Mike," I answered, expecting the usual request for some Zeppelin or Floyd. The connection was crystal clear, but dead silent. Just as I was about to hang up, a man's voice came through, surprisingly close to the receiver. "What's the longest song you have in your collection?" An odd request, but not the strangest I'd gotten in 15 years of late-night radio. "That would be Inagata da Vida by Iron Butterfly," I replied, already reaching for the vinyl shelf. 17 minutes and 5 seconds of pure psychedelic rock. "Want to hear it?" "Perfect," he said. "That should give us plenty of time." Something in his tone made me pause, my hand hovering over the control board. The VU meters were barely moving, showing almost no input from his line, yet his voice was unnaturally clear. "Time for what?" "To trace this call, of course. Isn't that what the police are trying to do right now? After what happened at the other stations?" My blood ran cold. 3 days ago, a late-night DJ in Memphis had disappeared during his shift. Last week, another in Nashville. Both small classic rock stations like ours. I glanced at the phone system. Something was wrong. The line input showed no signal, yet I could hear him perfectly. "Who is this?" The caller chuckled. "Check your email, Mike. There should be a message from 6 minutes ago." I hadn't told him my name was Mike. The on-air light was off. My computer showed one new message. The subject line read, "Your final broadcast." The attachment was a video file. With trembling fingers, I clicked play. The footage showed our station's back hallway, time-stamped 5 minutes ago. A door slowly opening in the dark. "You'll like this part," he said, as if watching with me. The video showed the storage room where we kept our vintage equipment. The camera panned across dusty old tube amplifiers, stopping on a box labeled microphones. Inside was a collection of classic RCA microphones and a human tooth. "Those old RCA Model 77s, he mused. "Perfect weight, solid brass, makes a nice sound when they connect with bone." The video continued, showing more boxes, more trophies. Memphis was too easy. Nashville put up a fight, but you're going to be special. My eyes darted to the break room window. Through it, I could see Jimmy's abandoned coffee cup, still steaming. Our night security guard always stopped by for coffee at 2:30 a.m. It was now 3:15. "What did you do to Jimmy?" "Jimmy's taking a break." The security monitors flickered to life, showing all cameras offline except one, the parking lot. Jimmy's car was still there, driver's door open. He really should have checked the back seat before getting in. I grabbed the station logs, hands shaking. The Memphis DJ disappeared on the 15th during a late-night request show. Nashville on the 18th. Today was the 21st. 3 stations, 3 days apart, all playing the same format, all within a few hours' drive of each other. You see the pattern now, don't you? A shadow passed by my studio window. Everyone loves a good countdown. 5 stations, 5 classic rock DJs. Memphis was number 1. Nashville made 2. You're going to be number 3. The station layout was spread out on my desk. 2 emergency exits, both requiring keycard access. The old maintenance tunnels leading to the transmitter building, all the possible escape routes. He had been studying them, planning this. "Did you know your transmitter building still uses the original utility tunnels?" he continued. "They don't build them like that anymore. Too many access points, too many places to hide." Through the studio window, I could see the transmitter building's door swinging in the wind. The iron butterfly record spun silently, needle hovering above. We weren't broadcasting, hadn't been for at least 10 minutes. But the request line was still connected, impossibly clear. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you understand the power of dead air." His voice was closer now, as if he was standing right behind me. That moment of silence between songs, the anticipation, the fear of what comes next. Every night you control that silence. Tonight, it controls you. The meters showed no input, no output. The station was completely silent. Yet his voice came through, clear as death. "Look at your phone." Really look at it. The request line phone sat dead in its cradle. Had been there all along. I had never answered a call. My cell phone showed no signal. The jacket I thought I'd hung up was gone. The car keys I remembered placing on the desk weren't there. Everything I remembered from the past 20 minutes was wrong. Mind playing tricks, creating false memories to protect itself from the truth. "Time for your request, Mike." His whisper came from above. The ventilation duct cover hung loose, decades of dust floating down like toxic snow. Inagata da vida, 17 minutes and 5 seconds. Metal scraped against metal. Let's see if you can hold your breath that long.